Hi guys, we are into our third unit. We are going to look at symmetry and surface area, which is actually our first chapter in our textbook, but that's okay, we can go out of order. And so the first part of this chapter, we are just going to be looking at types of symmetry, specifically line symmetry and rotational symmetry. So I think these first two lessons should be pretty quick for some of you. Some of you may need not to watch these videos. Just do the review with us in class, and that's okay. But definitely for the surface area videos, I encourage you to watch the lessons closely, and maybe more than once. And depending on what level you're working at, you're either going to be watching videos A or just the video numbers. But I'll make sure that I keep you informed as to which video you're watching. So anyways, for this first lesson, we're going to look at line symmetry. And so by the end of this lesson, you should know how to recognize the three main types of line symmetry that we'll be looking at, and determine whether a shape has line symmetry, and then if it does, what types of line symmetry it has. And it may be one, and it may be more than one. So let's look at our first examples. So when you look at this first image, I want you to take a look and see what pictures you see. And some of you might see different images. Some of you might see the faces staring at each other, right? There's one face, there's the second face. Or some of you might see the middle, the black object in the middle that looks like a candle holder or a candlestick. Either way, we notice that both sides of the image are similar. They're opposites of each other, or they're reflections. So hopefully you notice that this image is made by two reflected images. And if I had to draw a line of where this reflection or where the mirror was, I would draw it down the middle. So a vertical line. And so we would say that this picture has some vertical line symmetry. So you have another box with a word in it, line of symmetry. I would like you to take a minute and either use your glossary or the internet or whatever and come up for yourself what line symmetry is. So a line of symmetry is a line that divides a figure or an image or an object into two reflected parts, two equal but opposite parts. And sometimes we call a line of symmetry a line of reflection, or sometimes it can be called the axis of symmetry. And that might mean it's the x-axis or the y-axis, but it doesn't have to be. But we do mean that it's a straight line of reflection. So there are three types of line symmetry that we can deal with. Vertical. So if you remember, when you write a V, right, a V has vertical symmetry. And so when we're talking about vertical symmetry, we mean the same symmetry that you would see in the letter V. So this shape has vertical symmetry down the middle. If I cut that shape out and folded it along the dotted line, they would be exact copies of each other. The next type of symmetry is horizontal symmetry. And in order for a shape to have horizontal symmetry, it needs to have symmetry like the letter H. And the letter H, if I draw a line this way, it has symmetry. The letter H also has vertical symmetry, but the letter V does not have horizontal symmetry, so that's kind of how the trick you can help to remember, because sometimes people confuse vertical and horizontal. So if we look at the letter E, it has symmetry this way. So horizontal line, like a horizon line. If you think of like a sunset, sunset is side to side, not top to bottom. Unless, I guess, you're lying on your side, and then your horizon would be top to bottom. But that's a whole other story. Okay, the last type is oblique symmetry. And if you're someone who likes to work out your abs, you will know that your obliques are the ones on the side, or the kind of on the diagonal. And so an oblique line of symmetry is a diagonal line of symmetry. And so this shape has oblique symmetry in this direction. So if I fold it along that dotted line, the lines would match up. Or oblique symmetry can be in the other direction. It doesn't matter. Hopefully you notice that this shape also has vertical symmetry and horizontal symmetry. Okay, so sometimes shapes will have more than one line of symmetry. That's really common. So looking at these shapes, I would like you to try and figure out where you could draw the lines of symmetry and also label which types of symmetry it is. Please keep in mind that color is important. So on the Canada flag, if, let's say we had one green side and one red side, this flag would no longer have symmetry because when I folded it over, the red and green would touch and they wouldn't be the same. So keeping in mind that color is important when we're talking about symmetry. However, our Canadian flag isn't red and green, it's just red and red. Hopefully you knew that. And so it does have vertical symmetry. So on the other examples, I would like you to do the same thing. We're going to check these together tomorrow. Please make sure they're labeled, and please make sure you include all possible lines of symmetry for these examples. Okay, the last thing we need to do is sometimes you have to use symmetry to help draw out the rest of a shape. Okay, so you might be given part of an object and you need to think of, okay, well, if it was reflected, what would the rest look like? I find the easiest way to do this is on a grid paper, and then you can basically just count squares. If you didn't have grid paper, you would have to use a ruler and measure lengths and angles, and that can get kind of tricky. So we're going to try to do these on grid paper as much as possible. So if you think of each point, if it's one block to the left of your reflection line, you want it to be one block to the right of your reflection line when you're making the reflection. Okay, so if I'm looking at point A, the reflected point is going to be the same number of blocks away, just in the opposite direction. So I'm going to do the same with all those dots. So when it's a familiar shape like an H, oh, sorry if I ruined the surprise for you. It made an H. When it's a familiar shape, it can be a lot easier. When it's an unfamiliar shape, it can be a little bit trickier. So when I move to the second shape, I'm going to count dots again. So dot A is 1, 2, 3 squares away to the right. So to make dot A1, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 squares to the left. For dot B, 1, 2, 3 squares away. So 1, 2, 3. C is 4 squares away. E is 3 squares away again. E is 3 squares away. And then we connect our dots. Oh my gosh, what's it going to be? Whoa, were you surprised? I hope not. Okay, last two examples. These ones have diagonal lines, so they can be a little bit trickier. So it's really important that you count properly, otherwise your diagonal lines are going to be off a little bit. So we look at point A. From this point on the line of reflection, it's 2 squares away. So from that same point on the line of reflection, I'm going to go down to make point A1 or A prime. And then B is 1, 2, 3 squares away from this point of reflection. So I'm going to do the same for B prime. C is only 2 squares away. D is 3 squares away. And E is 2 squares away again. Okay, and now again, I use my ruler, connect my dots. Ta-da, we made an X. Okay, last one. On this one, we're going to be counting diagonal squares. So if I look at point A here, it is 1 diagonal square away from the line of reflection. So when I make my new shape, I'm going to go 1 diagonal square away. For B, again, it is 1 diagonal square away. And so we'll do the same. Okay, and then we use our ruler and connect the dots. And the way you could double check would be folding your paper. So that's it for line of symmetry. I will be checking those examples with you tomorrow. And if you feel really confident with this stuff, please feel free to watch lesson 2 tonight as well.